Good morning. As Cynthia mentioned, I'm with our North Carolina DOT Highway Floodplain Program in our hydraulics unit, and I want to talk to you about our partnership with the North Carolina Floodplain Mapping Program. In 1999, Hurricane Floyd flooded thousands of square miles of eastern North Carolina, and thousands of people were left homeless. This disaster highlighted our vulnerability to natural disasters and the need for accurate and up-to-date floodplain maps. In 2000, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, designated North Carolina a cooperating technical partner state, formalizing an agreement between FEMA and the state to modernize flood maps. This partnership resulted in the creation of the North Carolina Floodplain Mapping Program. As a cooperating technical state, the state assumed the primary ownership and responsibility of the flood insurance rate maps for all of North Carolina communities as part of the National Flood Insurance Program. And this project includes conducting flood hazard analyses and producing updated digital flood insurance rate maps. These and much other flood risk information is publicly available on this Flood Risk Information System website. Nearly 85% of North Carolina streams are in special flood hazard areas. And NC's largest developer in floodplains is the Ncdot. This is a map of some of the current projects we have going on across the state. Prior to 2006, Ncdot became aware of our need to improve our floodplain management efforts. And so we hosted a meeting with Federal Highways, FEMA, and NC floodplain mapping representatives, in which we discussed the regulatory requirements, including the Federal Executive Order 11988, our State Executive Order 123, and Federal Highways procedures for coordinating highway encroachments on floodplains, which is part of the, or supplement to the Federal Aid Policy Guide. And also our highway administrator at that time, Bill Rosser, expressed a formal commitment to NFIP compliance. So Federal Executive Order 11988 gives executive direction that all federal agencies shall follow NFIP guidelines and work with FEMA to do so. It provides guidelines for compliance. It narrows agency statutory discretion, and it led to a memorandum of understanding between Federal Highways and FEMA. Federal Highways issued in 1982, the procedures for coordinating highway encroachments on floodplains. Our own North Carolina Executive Order number 123 provides state executive direction that requires all state agencies shall administer a unified floodplain management policy. It provides guidance for compliance, and it mentions Ncdot specifically, stating the Department of Transportation shall work directly with the Federal Department of Transportation and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to apply appropriate standards and management to comply with floodplain management policy. Now, the goal of the National Flood Insurance Program is to reduce the impact of flooding on private and public structures. Any work within a designated flood hazard area must be in compliance. Apologize for that. Not sure what. I think it's. I'm sorry. Okay, the goal of the National Flood Insurance Program is to reduce the impact of flooding on private and public structures, and any work within a designated flood hazard area must be in compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program regulations. This includes road crossings or lateral encroachments inside of a regulated floodway or a non-encroachment area. So all development, including adding, changing, replacing, or removing any structure on a FEMA-regulated stream must be documented and receive approval through a map revision. The type of map revision protocol that's used is based on the nature and magnitude of changes in the base flood elevation and site conditions between the proposed and existing structures. So in 2008, 10 years ago, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with the North Carolina Floodplain Mapping Program. And this was an agreement by which our two agencies are equal partners and ensures compliance with federal and state regulations. It ensures that our flood hazard data is up to date. It covers no rise or decrease in base flood elevation situations and provides consistent project review statewide. The Memorandum of Agreement between our two agencies is a specialized map revision protocol that ensures compliance with the federal and state regulations while streamlining the letter of map revision process for the management of no rise, decreases, or increases in the base flood elevation and associated map changes. Through this, Ncdot is committed to having North Carolina Floodplain Mapping Program review all of our projects that affect special flood hazard areas and to cover that with fees for review and for map maintenance for their, the work of their program, and also that it ensures NFIP compliance on our projects. NC Floodplain Mapping is committed to assuming the responsibility for map updates and conducting letters of map revision for Ncdot, and to work with Ncdot's existing processes, products, and schedules. So we implement this through monthly meetings. NC Floodplain Mapping staff comes to our office on the first Thursday of each month, and new projects are discussed. And issues are discussed. We also include conditional letter of map revision projects, which are more the conventional FEMA process, issues with those. And also our state hydraulic engineer, Steve Morgan, and the division floodplain floodplain mapping program director, Mr. John Dorman, they meet as needed to oversee the program. And our projects get submitted digitally rather than paper submittals, so that increases our efficiency. The benefits to Ncdot, here we go again. All right. The benefits to the Ncdot are we have a one-stop shop for review. We have consistency instead of up to 650 different communities to deal with. There's little to no revision to DOT processes and products, and our approval times are cut by approximately 75% for no rise or decrease in BFE submittals. For any projects that actually go through the MOA process, it takes about 3 months or less to get approvals, whereas with the conventional CLOMAR process, that can take generally up to a year to get an approval. And since we started the program, we've had over 1,700 projects that have gone through that MOA process very successfully. Another benefit is just the agency-to-agency agreement that is dynamic and flexible. It ensures that our let dates are not in jeopardy of delay. And then floodplain mapping is also an advocate to Big FEMA and to the local communities on BFE increase issues, alternatives issues, and other things. And of course, it ensures NFIP compliance for our projects. So some benefits for the NC Floodplain Mapping Program is awareness of changes to the base flood elevations and special flood hazard areas for the largest floodplain developer in the state. The fees that we pay support the cost of map maintenance and ensure current and accurate flood insurance rate maps and flood insurance study reports. Gives us true Ncdot NFIP compliance, and we use NCFMP's models, so that avoids any rework and ensures better quality data for the map maintenance, and it lessens the load on the community since we just deal with the state floodplain mapping program. Some additional benefits are cross-training opportunities. We've had 2D modeling classes, HEC-RAS classes, a number of webinars and different things. Through our NEPA document process, that gives us a lot of the documentation that we need for environmental species, Endangered Species Act requirements. And another benefit is it helps the economy because we've got private contractors that are involved both on the review side and on the side of our designing our projects and submitting the packages to FEMA for review, or for FEMA review. Also, we have benefits of data sharing with the effective hydraulic models and data. And we're very fortunate in our state that we have statewide LiDAR coverage, which NCFMP has pioneered the way on that, and we've been participating with some of the funding of that to make sure we continue to have good LiDAR coverage across the state. And there's also benefits for emergency preparedness and response and early flood warning, and joint research opportunities that we have with the two agencies. And overall, just the general partnership and collaboration is the prime benefit that we experience. I mentioned emergency response, and our MOA allows us to follow our guidelines for drainage studies. We have a section on replacement of emergency flood damage structures, so whenever we have an emergency situation, that comes into play. And this was tested recently when Hurricane Matthew came through in 2016. We had over 800 structures that were replaced, and because of this program, we were able to quickly get those roads back opened and maintain our FEMA compliance for those structures that were replaced. We've also participated with NCFMP in developing mitigation strategies, flood studies in areas that were devastated by Hurricane Matthew as part of the Governor's Rebuild NC program. And I've got some additional information here that was provided by NCFMP. We had hoped that Mr. Tom Langan, the engineering supervisor for NCFMP, would be able to join us today, but they had some things come up and he wasn't able to be here. So he provided me a little bit of information about something that they're pretty excited about, and we've really we're just starting to get into it, but we really appreciate it too. It's called their Flood Inundation Mapping Alert Network, or FIMAN for short. It's a website that you can go to. And the goals of this program are real-time flood inundation mapping, current and forecast, gauge alerts. This application leverages vast investment in flood mapping and building level risk data. We've got building footprints for the whole state, and can do risk-based decisions before and during a disaster. And it helps prevent and reduce the loss of lives and property. The data sources for FIMAN include approximately 600 gauges in the system, both stream and precipitation gauges, and NC Emergency Management, which is the umbrella agency that floodplain mapping is under, has over 150 of those gauges. And so when you go into the site, you'll see a welcome video. The welcome screen will appear. You can provide your contact information, and it will allow you to sign up for real-time gauge alerts. And after you log in, the home screen will appear, in which the gauges are color-coded by flood risk severity. The inner ring color indicates the current conditions, and the center ring indicates the forecast conditions. An outer halo indicates gauges that have had rainfall in the last 24 hours. The flood stage trend of rising, falling, or constant are indicated by arrows and a hash mark in the center of the symbol. In the upper right corner is the precipitation radar data, which is turned on by default. A specific stream or precipitation gauge can be located by major river, gauge type, gauge name, or using a geographic radius based on your approximate location. And there's two options for real-time data on the site, which include gauge-specific flood libraries and their next FIM application, which will show inundation along a major stream, including in between gauges during a significant flood event. So once you've selected a gauge, a dashboard will appear containing current scenario and possibly forecast information. The dashboard also has interactive widgets for rainfall, stage, flow, current, forecast, stage, graphs, and building impacts. Okay, I'm going to, in the interest of time, skip over a few of these slides, but these are going to be made available to you after the conference, so it has a little more information in there, but I'll just kind of go through these, get to the next one that I want to talk about, which is this flood scenario mode. And in this one, flood extents and impacts for various flood levels can be visualized using the scenario tab on the dashboard. You can select different flood stages using the arrows at the left or right, or by dragging the button on the stage graphic. So, all right. So some potential future enhancements that we've discussed include installation of ultrasonic low-cost water level sensors at Ncdot structures. So we're participating already with floodplain mapping and doing that, both in helping with the cost of that and also allowing them access on our structures to install those gauges or those sensors. Also, we want to look at doing a road impacts view in FIMAN, which would link to our transportation information management system that is used in emergency response situations, or Google Maps and other types of web applications like that. And then also we want to try to develop forecasts for road closures using the National Water Model and 2D hydrologic models that are linked to Ncdot structures. So some lessons learned and future goals. Just briefly, lessons learned, communication and documentation is key for efficient FEMA approval on our projects. Like I say, we've had over 1,700 that have gone through very efficiently, and communication and documentation has really been key in all of that. The value of interagency collaboration, we've already discussed that to some degree. And then the benefits of leveraging technology and innovation. So all of those are some lessons that we've learned. And then as far as future goals, we would like to develop a more programmatic approach to this relationship with floodplain mapping. Right now, most of our projects are on a per project basis as far as how we provide fees and so forth for reviews. We'd like to do more of an annual program budget and just cover it that way. And make it more efficient. We also are looking at continued development of FIMAN and other tools, web-based tools, to promote resilience and sustainability. We also want to continue participation with NC floodplain mapping in joint research projects to promote greater efficiency and quality in the services provided by our agencies to the public. One that we're looking at not too far down the road is using unmanned aerial vehicles to combine with Geiger LiDAR to be able to do some of our as-built bridge surveys for following up on our FEMA submittals to get final approval and the letter of map revision process. We're planning on doing that research project with the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. Also, we're looking at utilization of 2D modeling per the EDC change initiative on Ncdot projects to support NC floodplain mapping's efforts and coordinating with FEMA regarding floodway determination based on 2D results. So that's something we'd like to move into as well. So that's all I have. For additional information, you can go to these websites, and I guess I can take any questions you might have at this moment.
One question. If you want to come up here and ask it, or Jerry will be around, and other people from North Carolina.
All right, thank you.